All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, guys. We'd like to welcome you to the show. This is your host of the evening, DJ Just Jay with Just Dimes ENT. I want to talk about this story, but I want to warn you guys beforehand. I'm going to have some choice words for this commentary. So if you guys are not, prepared for that type of thing, then you know what to do. We're going to talk about some details in this story that might be a little bit disturbing for those people that can't handle it. Y'all know what to do. Hit that red X in the top right corner, exit my video, because there's no need to flaggy my videos. There is no need to flag the video. If you don't like the content, all I ask for you to do is exit the content. So let me go ahead and get these pictures up on the screen. Now, why aren't they on the screen? Because Just Jay did something wrong, but Just Jay is going to make it right for you. Because I want y'all to get a look at this person, and I'm going to tell you guys about what this person did. Her name being Lovely Johnson, believe it or not. How many of you guys can believe her name is Lovely Johnson? How about that? What a lovely name for Lovely Johnson. We got 2 more donations that came in. Let me see. For giving great content. I appreciate that we had another donation that came in. So that is LF. I'm going to say it like that because I can't look it up just yet. So I'm going to say thank you to LF. We got, can we get a couple more likes, please? It's been a minute since I was able to donate, but much love. That's from my sister E Goose Is Me. Thank you very much. Let me make sure I can read this name real quick. My sister Karen in the chat. Karen, thank you. I appreciate that big time. This lady right here on my screen, her name is Lovely. Lovely. How lovely is that? The fact that she takes a picture with a damn tongue out her mouth. How about that? What a lovely picture for a mother, somebody who's raising an individual, a human being, supposed to be teaching them how to act, how to behave. This baby right here, that baby boy right there, his name was Noah Johnson, only 6 months old. He was the youngest of 2 children. We're going to tell you a story about that little boy because he's a beautiful little boy, and I hate what his mom did, all right? So if you guys aren't ready, that's the father, by the way. Here we go. This is coming out of Wyoming, and a Wyoming woman will spend the next 20 years, up to 80 years. Catch that. At least 20 years, but a maximum of 80 years in prison for leaving her 6-month-old son, Noah Johnson, to die in a sweltering apartment who she left strapped to a car seat in a hot attic for 32 hours. That broad right there. She left her 6-month-old son in a very, very hot apartment, left him strapped in a car seat, put him in an attic so he could not be found, and left him there for 32 hours. "32 hours would probably kill a full-grown adult if they were highly hydrated and everything. That would probably kill a full-grown adult, let alone a 6-month-old baby. But she did this so she could go out and go party and do drugs and drink with her friends. What a responsible mother. Can we give it up for the queens? How about we give a round of applause for the queens, the ones we need to uplift? I need somebody to raise the roof and let these women know that what they are doing, we need to praise them because we come from them and they are the life givers and all of this good stuff, right? You praise them and they'll do good things, right? No? No? You're saying no? What's that? You guys are saying no? You mean to tell me that if you praise these individuals, that they're not going to cherish their children, they're not going to bond with their children, they're not going to provide the utmost responsible care for their children? You mean to tell me that's not the way it works? You mean to tell me that praising someone before they actually earn it is actually not a good thing? Really? We're going to talk about this. So, on Thursday, Lovely Johnson, who's age 23. I want you guys to take a pen and bookmark that part of the story on her age because we're going to talk about that. She apologized for the July of 2017 death of her son, Noah Johnson. So the autopsy revealed that the infant went without food and water and has suffered from a diaper rash. Do you guys know what a diaper rash is? If you guys are not familiar with diaper rash, what that means, or even bed rash, because I used to be a CNA back in the day, a while ago, right? But I had to take training, and what you get whenever you have moisture on your body, which could come from just body moisture, whether it comes from urination, whether it comes from defecation, whether it comes from any of those circumstances, but from not being changed, from being unclean. Diaper rash can occur on grown people, it can occur on babies, and more commonly you hear about it from babies. It is painful, it hurts, because what it's literally doing is kind of like when you just leave your hand or your foot in water constantly and it breaks down your skin. You guys have ever heard of foot rot? It's very painful. It's torture for a baby. Thank you, GSD Mom. It is torture. So imagine, for 32 hours, not being changed, you went without food and water and suffered from a diaper rash that was so bad, guys. So severe that several areas of his skin had actually fallen off. I'm going to say that again. This baby went without food and water and suffered a diaper rash that was so bad that several areas of his skin actually fell off of his body. Please put that into perspective, right? Now, Noah weighed a mere 12 pounds and was already dead by the time his mother took him to the hospital on July the 21st. Keep in mind, he was 6 months old and weighed 12 pounds. Think about that. Now, the autopsy determined he weighed 12 pounds and had severe diaper rash, according to court records. The average 6-month-old boy weighs 16.2 pounds up to about 18.8 pounds, according to data from U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. While we're here, we almost got 175 people here. Please hit the thumbs up when y'all come in. Just look down at the bottom and see if the thumb is blue. If it's not blue, click it, make it blue. It'll share, and more people will come into the show. Now, we got a lot of information to get through real quick. Now, over the course of 3 days, when the mother left the kid in July 2017, Lovely Johnson's son, Noah, was strapped to a car seat in Wyoming, in a Wyoming apartment where police believe the temperatures reached about somewhere in the 90s. He was not fed or given water, and his diaper was not changed, and he was in the advanced stages of decomposition. Did you guys catch that? The baby was already in advanced stages of decomposition. That's according to Child Protective Services, the complaint filed against the dead infant's mother. So here's the story. Between 9 a.m. Monday, July 17th at 2:30 p.m., Wednesday, July 19th, Lovely Johnson told police she came and went from her apartment in the 2600 block of McKee Avenue Southwest and left Noah unattended. That's according to court records. So for the people to say that I don't have my facts right, this is court record. Look it up. If you want to sue me for incorrect information, try it. I try me. Because this information is coming from the courts. This is research, okay? At 10 p.m. on the evening of Noah's death, the room he had been left in was 90.5 degrees Fahrenheit, court records show. Aside from stopping at home about 10 a.m. Monday to feed Noah a bottle, Johnson told police she was out of the apartment from 9:15 a.m. to 9:15 p.m. that day. She also did not change his diaper when she stopped to feed him, according to court records. Johnson told officials she would change Noah 4 to 5 times per day and feed him 4 to 5 times per day. But, and yes, that's the same chick. She looked like a damn dude in that picture. But her mother, hashtag where are the fathers, her mother, Mamie, M-A-M-I-E, Mamie Washington, told police she had to remind her. She had to remind Lovely Johnson to feed Noah and that she would change his diaper when Johnson would not. This chick was so irresponsible, she wouldn't even change the baby's diapers. Her mother had to force her to do it. Johnson had complaints made against her by Child Protective Services in the past regarding both Noah and her 2-year-old daughter. So not only does she have one kid, but she has two. The other kid actually survived. The 2-year-old did. So she's in Child Protective Services. So on March 9, 2015, a physical abuse complaint was filed against Johnson after her daughter tested positive for marijuana. Doesn't that sound familiar? Haven't we done stories like that before? Yes, we have, right? Let's keep going. Her daughter tested positive for marijuana. In that report, Johnson admitted using marijuana during her pregnancy and until December of 2014. A second complaint was filed. This was made on July 3rd, alleged Johnson left Noah and her boyfriend, not the kid's father. Hashtag where are the fathers. She left Noah in her boyfriend's vehicle in the parking lot of a family video, 3556 Byron Center Avenue, Southwest. Wyoming police were dispatched to the report of an infant being left in a vehicle for 20 minutes, court records also show. The vehicle was not running. How many stories have I done just in the past week about kids being left in vehicles? Remember that? The vehicle was not running, it was unlocked, and the windows were slightly rolled down. Wyoming officer Jake Terspa wrote in his report for the incident that Johnson did not appear to care the child was in the vehicle unsupervised, and she kept defending why she needed multiple DVDs. Hashtag babies for benefits. Why do we have these wild ass hashtags? Because, in my opinion, based on what we see in our community with people of my skin hue, the caretakers, which primarily are the women, seem to not care about these children. They seem to care more about the benefits that they collect from these children. So I'm going to read that sentence again, and you tell me, does that not fall under babies for benefits? I'm going to read this again. Police were dispatched to the report of the infant being left in the vehicle for 20 minutes. Court records show that the vehicle was not running. It was unlocked. The windows were slightly rolled down. And when the officer wrote the report, he said that Johnson appeared to not care that the child was in the vehicle unsupervised, and she kept defending why she needed DVDs. That chick. While the identity of Noah's biological father is unknown, right? Hashtag where's the biological father? Like they matter, right? Biological fathers apparently don't matter, right? While the identity is unknown, Johnson told police his father was Marshall White. Marshall White, who is the father of Johnson's 2-year-old daughter. So that's probably inaccurate. The mother said White saw Noah twice and has not seen his daughter in a year, court records show. But check this out. The father has not been given custody of Johnson's daughter, which is confirmed to be his 2-year-old daughter, the older one. Why? Because he doesn't have a stable home. It also states that White has a pair of convictions from 2016 for domestic violence and possession of marijuana. Third reason, because he owes $5,951 in child support. Please take your pen out of that story. Let's talk about that right now. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit that thumbs up. We almost got about 200 people here. All I need the people to do is just hit the thumbs up. We got a couple of people that donated, which is cool. For everybody else, hit the thumbs up, please. Do that for me. Let's talk about why that doesn't make any sense. The reason why it doesn't make any sense to, outside of the other things, violence I can understand, marijuana I can understand, stable home, brother, you gotta have a stable home. Period. The child support doesn't make any sense. You know why? I'm gonna see if anybody in the chat catches that. The reason why the child support portion doesn't make any sense is because, is he going to owe a continued child support if he is now in custody of that child? No, he's not. Because now you're getting what you wanted. You wanted him to, quote unquote, support the child. So if he has custody of that child, then he will be in turn supporting that child. We always count that whoever the custodial parent is, that parent is taking care of that child physically, financially, spiritually, and emotionally, right? So that means his obligations to his child would be fulfilled. Now we're just talking about a bill that don't mean anything. You're keeping a child away from his father when you're saying he don't take care of his kid financially. Well, give him the goddamn kid. That seems to make sense. You want him to catch up his bill to see his kid like he's talking about making a car payment or a mortgage payment. That's just weird. That is his biological seed, and we're talking about you're not going to give this child over to the father who's probably best suited to take care of this kid for the most part. At least give him a chance because he created the kid. We'll talk about that more at a later point. We're over 200 people. Please hit the thumbs up, okay? Now, on Friday, July 21st, Aylana, which is the kid's name, was made a temporary ward of the court and placed in the care of the Department of Health and Human Services. So instead of giving the father a chance, they gave the 2-year-old kid to DHS. That makes no sense. You won't even get a kid to the father. Won't even give him a shot. Won't give him a chance. But both their grandparents are interested in gaining custody of the 2-year-old. Now, Johnson spent time with family and friends that day when she smoked marijuana. And the following day, on Tuesday, she told police she was gone from about 9 or 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. when she came home, and she did not check on Noah and left again at about 5 a.m. Wednesday. During that time, she admitted to smoking weed again. Now, court records show that Johnson left the home again on Wednesday without checking on Noah. She went to Family Fare, F-A-R-E, Fare, a gas station, okay, and a bank before returning to the apartment and finding Noah unresponsive. Of course, because you left this kid for 32 goddamn hours. I mean, of course. Johnson did not call 911. Listen to that. She didn't call 911, rather contacting her father for a ride to the hospital about 2:30 p.m., and the infant was pronounced dead upon arrival at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital that afternoon. It was a series of events that sentencing Judge Mark Truscott called, quote, outrageously disturbing. Outrageously disturbing, and I agree. Accusing Lovely of seeking out air conditioning and drugs while her son baked in an attic in a sweltering room alone. Hashtag babies for benefits. Remember that. This child was your own. This was your own child who was 6 months old, and you killed him, he said. Lovely pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in November, a month after the initial trial ended with a hung jury, which we'll talk about that here in a moment. This time, her attorney argued that his client's experienced a dysfunctional childhood and was overwhelmed taking care of her infant son, 2-year-old daughter, and a younger sibling. I'm going to read that again before we start the video. Her attorney, which is what his job is supposed to do, is defend her. But he said she experienced a dysfunctional childhood and was overwhelmed taking care of her infant son, 2-year-old daughter, and younger sibling. Guys, remember that postpartum depression I talked about merely being an excuse? This baby's 6 months old, and she has a 2-year-old. What does her having an overwhelming childhood have to do with the fact that she murdered her child? Because guess what? A lot of people that are watching this show right now can relate to this. So Lanisha, Miss June Bennett, Latia's Tall, Super T, Barbara, y'all tell me something. Tell me something, Davon. How many of us can testify today? Let's talk about this. How many of us can testify that we might have had a rough upbringing? How many of us were raised in the hood? How many of us had some very hard parents, or maybe one of us or some of us had maybe only one parent in the house? How about maybe some of us had no parents? How about maybe some of us were touched as children? Some of us were abused. Some of us were bullied. Some of us were around gangs. Some of us were around drugs. Some of us have seen murder. Some of us had to wonder where our next meal was coming from. Some of us had no transportation to get from point A to point B. Most of us had to watch our parents struggle. How many of us can relate to that struggle? How many of us had a rough childhood? So the question is if you had a rough childhood, does that give you any excuse for misusing, abusing, neglecting, and killing an innocent, defenseless child? I'm just asking, is it an excuse? Is that any kind of an excuse? Let's keep going. She quoted, "I never intended to cause harm to him," she said before sentencing. "If I could give my life for him, I would." Lovely's now 4-year-old daughter remains in foster care. She said if she could give her life for her son, she would, and she didn't intend to cause him harm. First and foremost, she intended to murder her kid. It was intent. It was malice. It was absolutely intended when you put your kid in a car seat, strapped him in the car seat, left him in a hot attic by himself so you could go get high and go get drunk and go kick it with your friends. You don't change him. Your mother tells you to change him and you refuse to. You refuse to feed him. You absolutely intended to harm him. If you could trade places with him, well, you could have. You actually could have. You could have put your kid with some friends of his own, with some other babies, let him play, and you suffer having to take him there, and you suffer having to deal with the time and effort and money that it costs for you to go out and go get a job to make sure that your son has those things and your daughter has those things. You could have, and you chose not to. I think the judge did the right thing by sentencing her to 20 to 80 years. Sounds about right to me. Let's go ahead and get this fair use popping, guys, so we can watch these news videos real quick. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. Y'all do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. We got about 200 people in the building, man. Let's push it to about 3 or 4, please. Let's hit that thumbs up.
The West Michigan woman who pleaded guilty in the neglect death of her infant son is now heading to prison for what the judge calls an outrageously disturbing set of facts. 23-year-old Lovely Johnson was sentenced today for second-degree murder in the death of her 6-month-old son, Noah. Johnson was given a minimum of 20 years. 13 on your side's John Hogan was in court for today's hearing.
The details of the case were disturbing, to be sure. The 6-month-old boy had been dead for more than a day when his mother brought him to Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, still strapped in the car seat, where he died.
This was a outrageously disturbing set of facts, ma'am. This was your own child who was 6 months old, and you killed him.
Harsh words from Judge Mark Trusak, who presided over Johnson's felony murder trial back in September. After 6 days of deliberations, a jury was unable to reach a verdict. A second trial was averted in November when Johnson pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of second-degree murder.
You left this child alone, you mistreated this child, and then what did you choose to do? You went out with your friends, you partied, you sought out a place that had air conditioning, and you used drugs.
Defense attorney Jonathan Children said Lovely Johnson had a troubled childhood filled with abuse. It followed her into adulthood. He called it a generational curse.
Kamisha Simmons, I love it. I'm going to tell you, Karen, Barbara, Kamisha, I love you ladies so much. Kamisha said, this is not postpartum depression. This is madness. Ladies have to lead by example. Men can only tell certain ladies what should be occurring, what to do. Ladies have to lead ladies. Ladies are followers. It's not a bad thing. Don't take what I said the wrong way. It's a good thing that you guys are followers because men are supposed to be the leaders, okay? So, in turn, it is up to our ladies to make sure and let ladies know and to hold ladies accountable for the things that we can't tell them. Ladies are followers of trends. Ladies are followers of trends. So if we set a trend and we say no more child abuse, then that leadership starts with our ladies. I do believe our ladies are strong, but I need for our ladies to show that strength in the right way. So I like the fact that my ladies are standing on this, standing on their laurels, standing on their morals, and saying this stuff has to end. Applause to the ladies, man. Thank you, guys.
So do I think that she has the heart and soul of someone who wanted to torture her and sadistically murder her baby? No, she doesn't.
He asked the judge to take Johnson's background into account.
She was a kid that made some horrible mistakes.
Now that's what I hate. Listen to this again. Listen to him again. What did he call her?
He asked the judge to take Johnson's background into account.
She was a kid that made some horrible mistakes.
She's a kid? Women want respect, but we're going to call her a kid? Is that respect? She's 23 years old and she's a mother teaching. Where's the respect in that? If women really want respect, why would we call this grown-ass woman? I'm a grown-ass woman. I can do what I want. I can live out on my own. I can sign for credit cards. I can sign for cars. I can have children and be responsible for human lives, but we're going to call her a kid? Listen again. Listen to what he said.
Into account.
She was a kid that made some horrible mistakes.
That's not a kid. That's a mother.
Background into account.
She was a kid that made some horrible mistakes.
So if that's the case, then kids shouldn't be having kids. How about that? Take her children, take her ovaries. I'll say it again. If she's a kid, then she should not be responsible for human lives. And if she's a kid at age 23 years old, which the law says that she's an adult, then she doesn't deserve to procreate after she gets out of jail.
So I think that would, the court would be justified in a downward departure.
Lovely Johnson herself apologized and asked Trusak for mercy.
If I could give my life for his, I would have done that.
The judge was unswayed.
I hope you think every day of how you killed your own child, ma'am.
Trusak sentenced Johnson to between 20 and 80 years in prison.
Ma'am, I hope every day you think about what you did and about the life that you took away. We're done here. Take her to prison, please.
Thank you, Judge.
The
Just
West
like
Michigan
that.
woman who pleaded guilty in the neglect death of her infant son is now heading to prison for what the judge calls an outrageously disturbing set of facts. 23-year-old Lovely Johnson was sentenced today for second-degree murder in the death of her 6-month-old son, Noah. Johnson was given a minimum of 20 years. 13 on your side's John Hogan was in court for today's hearing.
The details of the case were disturbing, to be sure. The 6-month-old boy had been dead for more than a day when his mother brought him to Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, still strapped in the car seat, where he died.
This was a...
I like the judge too. Thank you, Scholar Boy. What's up to Scholar Boy in the building, man? Appreciate your support. Let me go ahead and skip to the next video just in case if that has some repeating information. Here's the next video. Hit that thumbs up, guys. We got over 200 people. Let's hit that thumbs up. Let's keep sharing.
I would just like to say that I never intentionally wanted to cause harm to my son. If I could give my life for his, I would have done that. And I understand that justice has to be served for him today, but I'll say plead for your mercy.
She's pleading for mercy while her son was pleading in an attic, talking to God because he had nobody. Listen to her voice again.
I would just like to say that I never intentionally wanted to cause harm to my son. If I could give my life for his, I would have done that. And I understand that justice has to be served for him today, but I'll say plead for your mercy.
I hope you think every day of how you killed your own child, ma'am. And I hope seriously that you're never in a place ever in your life where you're responsible for taking care of a small child again.
Facts. I love that judge. He said, I hope you're never in a position to ever take care of another child ever again. Hashtag take the ovaries. Judge sound a lot like me, don't he? Because he's probably tired of the bull crap. He's probably tired of the excuses, and he wants it to stop too. Shout out to the judge. Let's keep going.
Well, this noon, we do have new developments in the trial of Lovely Johnson.
The young mother is charged with neglecting her child, leading to the 6-month-old's death.
But this morning, the jury announced it just cannot reach a unanimous verdict.
24-hour News 8's Barton Dieters has been covering this case for us. He's live outside the Kent County Courthouse with today's new developments.
So if y'all think about that, if a woman comes out of jail, if she's guilty of abusing children, murdering children, doing heinous things to children, why would they be allowed to get out of jail in time for them to have children with no repercussions? I think that's a dangerous thing. Maybe even put them on something that would temporarily prevent them from having children until they can prove that they are responsible for having children, I think. If you guys want to donate to the show, you can sign up in the links in the description box. Hit that PayPal, Patreon, Venmo, Cash App, any of those. Send anything 4 quarters and above. Greatly will help the show. Let's keep going.
Barton?
All right, Sue and Emily, we're told that this jury worked very hard, short breaks, short lunches, and as of Friday, they said they'd reached a decision on one part of this trial, the child abuse charge. But over the past few days, something obviously changed.
Ma'am, do you think further deliberations would help you in this matter or not?
We do not, Your Honor.
And ma'am, I want you to listen very carefully and only answer yes or no. Based upon your previous correspondence to me, have you reached a verdict on either of the counts that is unanimous?
We aren't showing the jury, and they refused to talk to us after. They told the judge they could not reach a verdict. But it was clear they'd been through a traumatic experience. The 2-day trial included graphic photos of 6-month-old Noah Johnson, who died alone, strapped in a car seat inside a sweltering Wyoming apartment in July of 2017. Prosecutor Chris Becker told the jury that Johnson had left the baby alone without food or a diaper change, and by the time she brought him to a hospital, the infant was in an advanced stage of decomposition and had obviously died from neglect. Becker said as the baby died, the mother was out having fun without regard to the suffering of the child. Defense attorney Jonathan Shilgen countered that it was possible the baby died of something else, and his client's alleged lack of care would not have mattered. He also said that the mother suffered from panic disorder caused by the harsh circumstances of her life that led her to react like someone in survival mode and robbed her of the ability to make rational choices. The defense was successful to the extent that the jury was not able to make a final decision, which means a new trial, unless the defense is able to get some kind of relief in an interrogatory appeal.
I think it speaks to the nature of the overcharging. It's been clear from us from the beginning that this was a tragedy, not a murder. The government has...
It was a tragedy, not a murder, but keep in mind, that's her defense attorney. That's the defense attorney's job. That's his job, is to try to find some type of rationale to put in people's head to get them to sway their votes in a certain kind of way. This is absolutely murder. He's on some bull crap. He's just doing his job.
Been taught a lesson. They might not like it, but it's true.
There's not a whole lot to do differently. I mean, the facts are what the facts are. So I can't say there's going to be a whole lot of change. I mean, it's, obviously a different jury, and maybe there's some things I may emphasize, but I can't say I'm going to completely do anything differently because the facts are what the facts are.
The judge denied the defense request for a personal recognizance bond for Johnson so she could.
Well, that part is old, so let me go ahead and keep going. I got a couple more videos for you guys before we wrap up here. Let me see, which one are we in? We're in 3. Let's go 4. Let's take a look at this one real quick. Now, we've already got the verdict, so I'm just kind of showing you guys some things that maybe you guys didn't get a chance to see, okay?
A 23-year-old woman rejecting a plea deal and now faces life in prison without the possibility of parole if convicted of the child neglect murder of her 6-month-old son.
But this case has become complicated by the actions of staff at the jail that opened mail between the defendant and her attorney.
Thank you for the Cash App, and also thank you for the people that donated on PayPal. I just got those. I'm going to read them here in just a moment, so thank you.
And then sent it on to police.
Barton Dieters is here to tell us how this could impact the case. Barton?
Well, Brian and Sue.
This was initially, this part is already over, but I'm just going through these videos so y'all can see them, okay? Initially, they did ask for a bond, but this is old. She's already been sentenced.
The ability of the defendant to communicate with their attorney without the fear that that information will be used by the prosecution, it's at the very heart of American jurisprudence. And everyone admits the mail was opened. But the dispute here is whether that should matter in this case.
So she was sent a letter. Somebody opened the letter at the jail, which caused there to be a delay, which is illegal. They should not have done that. But like I said, she's in jail. She's already been sentenced. This is old. So this is kind of looking in hindsight, okay?
Which would you like to do?
I would like to go to trial.
All right, then we will do that.
Just like that, Lovely Johnson turned down a plea deal that would have gotten her a minimum sentence of 15 to 25 years.
So if she would have taken that deal, she would have gotten less time than what she actually got because she took it to trial.
She'll take her chances with a jury, which could put her in prison forever. While Johnson was in jail earlier this summer awaiting trial, a letter from her to her attorney was opened by jail staff, copied, and then sent to Wyoming police.
The last thing we want to do is violate anyone's rights, and by breaching that attorney-client privilege, we are doing that.
Jail officials say it was an honest mistake, and Wyoming police say as soon as they received the letter, they sent it unread to the Kent County prosecutor, who also says it was unread there.
We just got another Cash App that came through, and I'm about to shout you guys out here in a moment, so thank you very much for that.
And then Judge Mark Trusock was informed.
This is not to happen again out at the jail, or there will be contempt issues.
Jail staff open every piece of mail looking for weapons or drugs, and when requested by the prosecutor, they copy the contents and save it. But that is not supposed to happen.
Initially, she was facing 15 to 25 years if she would have taken the deal. She rejected the deal because she thought she could get off in trial, which if her attorney was good at what he did, he should have told her, you're going to lose in a jury trial. And she did. So she ended up, instead of 15 to 25, she got 20 to 80.
Happen with legal mail.
Because mail is one of the several tasks that our staff are responsible for, I can't identify which of the 5 property clerks could have been involved in this situation.
In court today, the defense asked for more time, a request denied by the judge.
I would say it's almost insane to say that we can't even have a week or 2 weeks to find out, was it appropriate what happened with her letters to me?
Shiljan said he believes this is not the only case where this has happened. He also believes it happened in the case of Quinn James, accused of murdering a 16-year-old girl.
And if these mistakes are able to happen on 2 murder cases in less than a month, that's a problem. I'd like to see the jail do a complete investigation about how many letters were opened and copied and sent to police and prosecutors.
Jail administration says it takes this.
So like I said, that's all in hindsight. They were just talking about initially her rights being violated. So like I said, that's all kind of old stuff. Let me shout out these people real quick. Let me say thank you to Rose Marie, to Kendra, to Sarah and John B, and also Sylvester. Those people came through on the Cash App. So thank you guys so much for that. This one comes through from PayPal, and I got to shout out my sister Barbara. I can't remember your name. I hope he didn't put it. Damn it. Let me see if I can figure out what his name was. I think I know who this is. Hold on. Let me see if I can figure out who this is. I want to say this is Scholar Boy, but I'm not sure. Hold on. It is. I knew it. So Scholar Boy donated to the show again. So shout out to Scholar Boy. I do remember y'all names. So Barbara, Scholar Boy, Jimmy D. Let me make sure who this is. Let me make sure. Dr. Love in the chat. Dr. Love, if you're still in the chat, say something for me in the chat. So thank you very much to Dr. Love. This one comes from, this is from Reginald. He says hello. So if you're still listening, Amy, tell Reginald I said hello. And Reggie, what's going on, bro, man? Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Big time. Philip SC in the chat. Say something in the chat for me. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. My sister, Eagles, thank you very much. Karen, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, No Brass. Neil, donated twice. Thank you, Neil. Danny Harris, Latias Tall, my brother Chris Thorns, Davon Strahan, and twice from Scholar Boy. So that was 2 times from Scholar Boy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Love, let me wrench you up real quick. Anybody else that donated on Cash App, that goes from Rosemarie, Kendra, Sarah, John, and Sylvester. If you guys want your wrench, just type something in the chat for me and let me know so I can wrench you up. You missed the show? Yeah, you missed most of the show. So watch these videos real quick, and then we're going to get up out of here. This will tell you most of what happened in the show. What's going on, White Wolf? What up?
Expected to be charged tomorrow with murdering her 6-month-old boy. Within the past hour, the Kent County prosecutor authorized murder and child abuse charges against Lovely Johnson.
24-hour News 8 Spartan Dieters has been working this story since it broke at noon. He has new information now about the background of the mother who's being charged. Barton?
What we don't know is how this baby died and why the mom is charged in his death. That should come tomorrow when the 22-year-old appears before a judge. We do have some clues about the home life of the infant whose life was cut so short. Police say the baby died at this apartment on McKee Avenue near Clyde Park and 28th Street. The mother, suspect, brought the child to the emergency room at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, but he was already dead, police say. Now the Kent County Prosecutor's Office has charged Lovely Johnson, the baby's mother, with murder while committing child abuse. We looked at Kent County court records that show Johnson had taken out a PPO against the father of her children, the firstborn, in 2015. She claimed he had hit her and bit her face, and she feared for her own safety and the safety of her children. The father pleaded guilty to aggravated domestic violence in September and was sentenced to 1 day in jail. He currently has a bench warrant for allegedly owing almost $6,000 in child support. Those familiar with the family told us he is also the father of the child who died and said the baby's grandmother, the suspect's mother, is on her way to Michigan from Mississippi. The mother of the dead child also pleaded guilty to embezzlement of less than $200 in Kentwood in September, but failed to make payments on her fines, leading to a bench warrant.
So, she also has a criminal record. How about that?
We should know more about this case tomorrow after Johnson is expected.
Well, we already know what we need to know. We've already talked about it. I think this is the last video. Let me make sure, and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here.
For leaving her 6-month-old son to die in a sweltering apartment. The sentence comes...
Did the other child go to the family? Not yet, Lanisha. The child is right now in Child Protective Services right now. The family is asking, they're petitioning for the kid. I can't tell you which family member. Let me see if I can tell you which family member asked. Her grandmothers, both of her grandmothers are interested in gaining custody. So good for the grandmothers. So Lanisha, the grandmothers are asking for custody on both sides. The kid right now is in child protective custody. I think the father of that kid, regardless of him owing child support, should be given a chance. Just my opinion, but hey.
After she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder following a trial where a jury could not come to a decision.
24-hour News 8 Spartan Dieters is back from the sentencing where we did hear from that mother. Barton.
Okay, now I got a couple messages. Let me read these real quick. Davon said, take this, Scholar Boy. I like that, man. My brothers are battling in the PayPal. That's pretty cool. So Davon got you, might have got you beat, Scholar Boy. He sent 2 more through. Strahan 3, Scholar Boy 2. How about that? That's pretty cool, man. Friendly competition in the PayPal donations. Brothers, prayer hands up. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for showing love like that. That's pretty cool. Good looking out, Davon, man. Appreciate that.
Well, Sue and Brian, Noah Johnson's life ended after 6 short months, the victim of depraved neglect of a mother completely unequipped for the job.
No, she was equipped for the job. She didn't give a shit about the job. You guys understand the difference? The difference between her being equipped for the job and not giving a shit about the job. You can go and get a job at McDonald's dropping fries in the vat, or you could just simply say, screw that, I don't want to do it, or do it wrong, or just simply not show up to work, and that proves you just don't give a damn about the job as opposed to being qualified for the job. Huge difference.
Over the course of 3 days in July of 2017, Noah Johnson was strapped in a car seat, left in a Wyoming apartment where police believe temperatures reached into the 90s.
That's the house that the baby was left at. Now, Spank Buddha, I will say this. The father absolutely should have a place to put the kid. You can't not have a stable home to have the kid at. That's just stupid. Previous charges, maybe you can overlook those, maybe not, depending on what it is, because it was domestic violence. With these kids, that's kind of sensitive. The child support, I think, is stupid, but the father should definitely have a stable place. Start there, bro. Start there. To the dad, start there. Get a stable home first. The child support, I'm not worried about. The domestic violence, I kind of am worried about that a bit.
He was not fed, given water, and his diaper was not changed. And as for the 23-year-old mother...
And then what did you choose to do? You went out with your friends, you partied, you sought out a place that had air conditioning, and you used drugs.
She was charged with murder and tried in September, but that jury was hung.
She's a young kid that...
She's not a young kid. She's a mother and a grown-ass woman.
Probably had her heart broken when she was born.
What? Had her heart broken, and that's why they shouldn't be parents. She should not be allowed to procreate, and she damn sure should never be around another kid like the judge said. What a stupid excuse. She's not a kid. Guys, think about this. Tommy talks about this all the time, about the Democratic plantation. The Democrats treat you like you're children, like you're ignorant, like you're dumb. Get off that Democratic plantation and start thinking for yourselves. Stop taking handouts, because this is really what the leftists think about you.
Attorney said Lovely Johnson was the victim of extreme neglect and abuse.
So do I think that she has the heart and soul of someone who wanted to torture her and sadistically murder her baby? No, she doesn't.
She ended up pleading guilty to second-degree murder, and today spoke to the judge.
And I understand that justice has to be served for him today, but I'll say...
Karen, it's like, I can't be mad at him for saying it because I know he's trying to do his job, but just the fact that he said it proves his stance and the fact that he thinks that she's incapable. That also proves on the other end, because it's a catch-22, you can't say that and then say that she should be granted, clemency in this situation and get out and be able to take care of other children. It don't work both ways.
Plead for your mercy. If I could give my life for his, I would have done that.
Judge Mark Trusock said he hopes she's never in a position to care for children again.
I hope you think every day of how you killed your own child, ma'am.
After the sentence, we spoke to the man that Lovely Johnson considered to be a father.
You're saying, what does politics have to do with this? Because politics generally play in our laws, Tisha. Just to get you to understand, I love the question. And I'm going to tell you, Tisha, I actually like the fact that y'all question what we say here. Because if it's something that people aren't understanding, if it's a message that we're putting out there that is not resonating with people, then we need to be able to explain ourselves and our positions. This is why I say that. Because everything that we vote on has to do with the local elections first. Who we put in the local elections are the ones who get through, and they are our judges. They are our attorneys. They are our prosecutors. They are our police officer chiefs and things like that. They are our mayors. They're the ones that affect our lives and affect what we can and can't do on a day-to-day basis, how people are judged on a day-to-day basis, and the everyday decisions that are made within our state confines every single day. That's why politics matter. Politics matter because politics is the ones who chose our votes were the ones who chose to put that judge in place in this case, who could have let this woman off for murder or could have sentenced her to life in prison for murder in this case. It definitely depends on who's in office. So politics play a role in our everyday lives. In this situation, you just watch politics play out. So I think it's a great question, actually. You just watched how the political system played out. The type of message that the liberals on the left put out is generally the type of things that that attorney says. Very similar things. The Democrats say very similar things. And you watched how a responsible adult that believes that we all should be held responsible for the decisions that we make legally, that judge made the right call and said that this mother failed her kid and should never be around other kids. That's politics. That's the epitome of politics right there.
Figure and who testified in her trial.
I'm hurt that she did what she did.
He says while he still loves her, justice for Noah was needed.
But she don't went to jail if she wasn't taking care of her son.
So let's go ahead and stop the video right there. Let me go ahead and give my closing thoughts. And I want to thank you for almost 200 plus people coming through, almost 300. That would have been dope. But let me give you guys my closing thoughts. So again, that's exactly what politics is. That you watched it play out right there. You're just now checking in. As soon as I end the show, Kanika, you'll be able to go back and watch the replay if you missed anything. And I'll be able to cut it on the, I think in a day or two, and you'll be able to watch just the show by itself. Okay? So at the end of the day, this is what I want to say. If you are above the threshold, matter of fact, let's say it like this. If you're grown enough to have a child, then you're grown enough to be judged as an adult. How about that? If you're grown enough to be the boss of another life, then you're grown enough to be held responsible for the decisions that you make. Therefore, your childhood is over. You are no longer a child. You are an adult. And age actually doesn't matter. If we're going to allow what you consider to be kids, children, she's a child, she's a kid, then fine. She should not be allowed the right to be a parent. Because those children are going to be depending on every choice and decision that she makes. They are completely at her mercy. They get nothing. They die without the mother giving those children proper care and proper education, proper love, and proper respect. Where's the bleeding voice for the children? Let's take a step back and say what's best for the children. If we're going to continue to say that these mothers who produce children are too young to be judged for the decisions that they make, then maybe we need to rethink them being parents. We have to be the voice for children. As parents, as adults, as productive members and law-abiding citizens of the United States of America, it is our God-given responsibility to take care of our villages. These are people that we know. These are people we see every day. We have to lead by example. This is something that I do when I go out in the street, when I turn this show off. This is the example that I live by. And I got to tell you guys, I feel like this show, and it has made me a better person. I've always strived to be a good person. Shout out to my daughter. I want to throw this out there because she might be watching right now, because I know my baby has to go get some dental work done tomorrow. But if she's watching right now, I want to say I love you. But my baby just told me she took one of her grades, turned it from a B to an A, and that's because she listened to her dad. Shout out to her mama, but she listened to her dad, and her dad said, whenever you have questions, ask. Don't ever be afraid to ask. And my baby strived and she went in and she took that B and turned it into an A. I'm so proud of my daughter. I lead by example, and that's something that I want to continue to encourage us to do as parents, as citizens of the United States of America. We absolutely have to do our part when we can and every chance that we get. If you see something, say something. Hashtag babies for benefits. Hashtag where are the fathers. Hashtag daddies count. This is your boy DJ Just Jay. I am signing out with love. I'm giving you guys the prayer hands. Thank you guys so much. That's the end of the show. We'll see you on the next show. Peace.